I was gonna put this slide up. This is a picture of my family. I have 3 daughters, and then the little boy in the back is my surprise bonus child. He's my son, and then the 2 babies are my grandbabies. So it's so much fun being a grandma because you don't have to change the diapers and you can send them home at night, get you some sleep. All right. So do you know that people are more afraid of public speaking than dying? I can definitely relate. So even though public speaking doesn't come naturally for me, I accepted this invitation because this topic is so important to me. It has changed my life. Growth comes from doing uncomfortable things, and I have grown so much. Try not to start crying already. I'm really grateful for this opportunity to grow, and I'm so grateful for all you women coming to my breakout. Thank you for your support, and I hope that I can present something to you that will be helpful. I wish that we could discuss it together. I feel like you could learn a lot more from each other than just listening to me talk, but we're all in this together, and I'm excited to be here. So hang on, we are skipping forward. Okay, so a few years ago, I was in a large, crowded room, and I locked eyes with a woman I hadn't seen for a couple of years, and her eyes just lit up, and she ran over to me, and she's like, "Oh, I'm so excited! I'm so excited to see you, and I'm so excited to see that you're pregnant." Only I wasn't. At that moment, I wished for a magic wand so I could just disappear. And when I told her that I wasn't pregnant, I'm pretty sure she wished for that same magic wand. Oh, awkwardness. Let's see. Oh, there we go. So I couldn't be mad at her because she was so genuinely happy and excited for me, and because I knew I looked like I was 9 months pregnant. In fact, the other day when I showed my husband this picture, this one over here, I don't know how to use the pointer, but I was never going to let anyone ever see that picture of me. I don't know why it's any worse than the other 2. It's not really, but I was never going to let anyone see that because I felt so ashamed of what I looked like. And when I showed it to my husband the other day, he's like, "Wait, aren't you pregnant in that picture?" I'm like, "No, I'm not." Those are my before pictures. That's February of 2021. Have you ever wished for your own magic wand that you could have just wave over and make an instantaneous transformation of something? Yes, I admit I have done it so many times in my life. You walk in the kitchen, your sink's full of dirty dishes. That magic wand, ping, that'd be nice. Or you walk into your bedroom and it's crowded with laundry on your bed. Ching. So many times in my adult life, I've wished for a magic wand to just wave over my body and change me from being the obese person I was to someone in my right size body. Can you guys relate? Yeah. What if I told you that I found something that works like a magic wand? Would you be interested? I don't know why it keeps changing and not letting me read my whole slide, but okay. Well, I have. It's the power of habit stacks. Okay, admit the power of habit stacks isn't an instantaneous transformation, so I'm sorry if you're disappointed. But I promise that if you put forth real effort and put in the time that is required and you apply some patience as you practice this process, you're going to see that habit stacking by using the tools that are in the Bright Line Eating book are going to give you some pretty magical results in changing your life and your body. So I'm going to show you a couple pictures so you can see how it's helped change my life and my body. So start there. That's where I'm currently at. The picture on the left, I was in a really miserable place when that happened, and I don't know if you can, yeah, I don't know if you can see in my eyes, but I was in a really dark place. So I'm so grateful for this program. So what is habit stacking? Habit stacking is a technique where you combine two things, something that you're already conditioned to do with something new, something that you want to do. An example of habit stacking, we'll use Susan Pierce Thompson's #1 tool that she talks about, which is writing your food down the night before. So let's just say that you're wanting to start that habit and adding it into your stack. So choose something that you're already doing. So for me, that would be having dinner. I never go without my dinner. It's something I do every night about the same time. So if I wanted to add in writing my food down, I would eat my dinner. And then when I'm ready to start, I'd go look in the fridge, see what food I already had on hand, and make a plan. Okay, I've got this. I'm going to write that down. That's going to be my breakfast, my lunch, and dinner for tomorrow. And pretty soon, as you start doing that day after day, it becomes easier, becomes a habit. That's how you habit stack. And then after that, you can just add more on. So once you get those two firmly in place, then you can add on the next one. Sounds pretty simple. It does take time, though. Sometimes it takes a while to get the first one cemented in place. So in Bright Line Eating, in chapter 10, I've got some of the things I do for my habit stacks over here in the window. But in the Bright Line Eating book, in chapter 10 is where all of the tools are located that we use in Bright, that are just so amazing. And we're going to go over the tools a little bit later, but there's a list of the ones that I got out of the book. So for now, I want to share with you some pretty magical benefits that Susan Pierce Thompson has found evidence from scientific studies showing how using these tools can support us in our habit stacking each day. So these benefits can direct us to greater self-compassion. Can you guys use that in your life? Lessen anxiety and depression. Help ease addiction, which is pretty powerful if you're here, because you probably are struggling with it, because I know I am. It can boost our willpower, and it can elevate success. Those are some pretty big promises. And so if you can get these worked into your life, you're going to feel a big change and more power in your program. I like to think of habit stacks as rock cairns. So cairns are rocks that are stacked on top of each other as trail markers. They've been set out by those who've led the way before us. They show us the best path to travel to make it to our destination safely, even when we can't see where it leads. The tools that Susan Pierce Thompson has provided for us to use to begin our habit stacking can do the same for us. She's already traveled this path, and she's traveling this path with us. She's marking the best paths for us to follow. She's marking where the dangerous pitfalls might be that we want to avoid. Try to help us from becoming completely lost. So I recently learned that in the Bible, Samuel set up a big stone for the people to see, to set as a token of gratitude for deliverance from the Philistines. And he named the stone. He named it Ebenezer. Ebenezer means stone of help. So I'm thinking our stacked habits, these rocks just reminded me of stacked habits, are stones of help to guide us on our journey and to give us deliverance with our food and our weight problems. So I invite you to come along with me on a bit of my journey. See how habit stacks have really felt to me like it's magically transformed my life. They've taken me out of the very deepest, darkest pit that was full of doubt, despair, and discouragement, and guided me to a place of light and hope and compassion. I credit this magical transformation to a loving Heavenly Father who never gave up on me, and who gently guided me to finding and following new habits that could help me start to transform my life step by step. So I'd love to share with you my top 4 magical changes that I've noticed that are happening for me still from following these tools. My spirituality has blossomed. I've experienced learning how to forgive more fully. I've stopped isolating myself, and I've developed a love for connecting with others. This last one is really, truly the most miraculous one for me. After 50 years, I finally learned how to like myself. I want that for you too, if you're struggling with any of those. So we're all on our own pathways to traverse life. Sometimes our pathways are smooth and glorious and beautiful and just wonderful. And other times they're steep and treacherous. None of us are going to go through life without problems. We're all going to have some boulders in our pathways. And sometimes the part that I'm kind of loving, that I'm finding now in this group, is our paths intersect with each other, and we can help each other along on our journey. We're all going to have different lessons to learn at different points in our human experience and journey. So I'm inviting you to come on my journey with me. Let me show you where I was and how habit stacks have helped me start to heal and progress. So when I was in my late 30s, I was on a fabulous path. I just lost 70 pounds. I was out running marathons. I felt strong and alive and just so excited about life. I was doing new adventures all the time. All my kids were in school, so I finally was getting some freedom. I could do some things that I hadn't done in years. Every single day I was doing something fun. I was going out with my friends. I was doing something fun with my kids and my husband. Life was just beautiful. And in my 40s, my path got a little bit rocky. The weight started to creep back on, and with the weight, some depression started to creep back on. And I had a bunch of changes that were coming in my path that I didn't have the tools to navigate what was going to happen in my life. I hadn't even thought this far ahead in life. I thought we were done having babies, and I unexpectedly found that I was pregnant. I delivered at 41, so when most women are becoming grandmothers, I was starting over with a new baby stage. It was a precarious birth. It was pretty scary. And I left that hospital with PTSD, extreme back pain, and severe postpartum depression. I came home with this new baby, and then my oldest was a senior in high school, and pretty soon my kids started to move out and go to college, and the two oldest ones both left the country at different countries. And then when they came back, they got married, and here I had this new baby at home, and all of this going on in my brain. It just couldn't keep up with the extreme opposites of ages of my kids. I didn't know how to juggle it. So much of my time was dedicated to taking care of my baby, and I found that I would isolate myself as one of the ways to just try to protect myself, I guess. I didn't really fit in anywhere. All the women that were my age had careers, or most of them had careers. None of them had babies my age. But the women that had babies my age didn't want anything to do with me. I was old enough to be their mom, you know? It was just a really hard place to be. I didn't fit in. About this time, my older sister, who's one of my very best friends, unexpectedly died at age 49 from complications from morbid obesity. I tried to navigate my path, but it got really dark and really scary. I couldn't seem to see what step to take next, and I tripped hard and I belly flopped into a very deep, very dark pit, and I stayed there for several years. I couldn't seem to see the light of day. I didn't have the strength to make any progress to pull myself out of that pit. And most of this journey, I just felt like I was completely alone. When people don't have the tools to deal with their pain, that's when people start to look for other things to numb their pain. Some people turn to drugs and alcohol and food. I chose food. I would use it to numb. I was trying to numb the pain in my back. It would just hurt so bad. I tried to numb the cope and shame of embarrassment because I'd gained all of my weight back plus more. I was trying to numb the pain that I didn't feel like I was a very good mom to this new baby. I was trying to numb the pain of the grief of losing my sister. I was trying to numb my loneliness, my depression, and my anxiety. I tried to numb my thoughts of many people have it much harder than you. Just pull yourself up. Come on, everybody else is fine, and why can't you pull it together? I was my own worst critic. I just felt so ashamed at my inability to cope. It was really demoralizing. I just felt like such a failure. I love this quote by Brene Brown. We cannot selectively numb emotions. When we numb the painful emotions, we also numb the positive emotions. So here I was numbing my painful, but I totally numbed all the positive too. I was probably having wonderful things happening in my life, but I couldn't feel them. I was too numb. I was incredibly negative. I was very critical of myself, and I was critical of others. I was probably pretty awful to be around, honestly. I was completely miserable, and I felt totally crippled by my own lack of self-worth. Satan attacks worth first, because without it, we are crippled. But with it, we can do anything. There's hope. It took me nearly 7 years before I was able to fully find a way to pull myself out of this deep, dark pit. I blamed all of my misery on my depression. It's just depression. If I didn't have depression, I would be happy. I was taking medication. It wasn't really helping. I was just really miserable still. And I finally came to the point where I realized if I wanted to be happy, I was going to have to make some key changes in myself. I needed to change my thoughts and my habits and my actions. That was really overwhelming. That's a lot to change. It's pretty much everything, I fell on my knees and I pleaded with God to help me with more intensity than I ever had in my life. I didn't want to live like this anymore. My family deserved more. And he sent answers little by little, step by step. I really had to let go of my pride, thinking that I could pull myself out of this deep, dark pit by myself. And when I decided that I could surrender to God and ask him for help and trust on him for his help, that's when my life started to change for the better. So I love the scripture. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not into thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. Once I started letting him help me, then I could notice that he was trying to direct me. I was just ignoring it before. And that said, my habit stacking started to change before I even knew what habit stacks were. I prayed for things, for tools to help me, and he helped guide me on my way by small and simple things. The first habit, I started to pray more intentionally. I was already praying. I prayed all my whole life, but I was doing it intentionally. Every day and every morning, every night, I would put forth effort and thought into what I was saying. And I started to feel a little bit better, just a little bit. The next thing I added in was inspirational reading. So in chapter 10, I love that Susan Pierce Thompson has a whole bunch of different inspirational readings that you could do. She's like saying you could use scriptures from religion, daily meditation readers. You can get a daily reader specific for food addiction. You can check her list. There's some pretty great ones. In fact, the little green one in the middle, Each Day a New Beginning, is one of my favorite books. I tried to order another one, but they sent me a different one. But that one is so powerful. It's got some really good things in it. I guess most of you probably can't see it. This one, if you could find it, it's really good. Each Day a New Beginning. It's a daily meditation for women, and it's by Hazelden Meditations. Anyway, so I just started with scriptures. I had scriptures on hand. And so I just, every morning after I got my prayers in place, then I added the next stack, which was scriptures. I would just read for just a few minutes every day, and I would just underline anytime it said God or Jesus. It was really interesting because within a few months, I started to notice I felt really more connected to my higher power. I saw that the things that I read about them, it said that his hand is always outstretched, waiting for his children. He was never going to force me to take his hand, but it was always there. just waiting for me to take it. And I was finally at the point that I was ready to take his hand and accept that help. And then he will guide us when we take that hand. Reading the scriptures helped me to see something pretty important. It helped me see that even though I didn't love myself, that I mattered and that I was worth loving. And it was a pretty big light bulb moment for me. The light started to shine on me a little bit more. Dieter Uchtdorf says, when darkness creeps into our lives, as it often does, our daily restoration opens our hearts to heavenly light, which illuminates our souls, chasing away shadows, fears, and doubts. I really needed those shadows, fears, and doubts chased away from me. And just those two little things, those two little habits of saying a prayer and reading the scriptures for a few minutes, maybe 10 minutes a day, started to shine the light in my life. So once my prayers and inspirational reading were in place, I was ready for more. I remember praying for guidance at this point to help me feel less miserable and less negative, because that was kind of overpowering me. The answer that I felt was that he loved me just like I was. I mean, warts and all. He loved me just the way I was, but he had more in store for me. At this point in my life, I was sitting in a recliner all day long with a hot pad on my aching back. And he said, "You've got more. I've got more in store for you to do. And you can't do that sitting in a chair all day long." And so I felt inspired to really listen to what he was telling me to do. This first step was to be careful to which voice I was listening to. Was I listening to this little shoulder devil that was screaming in my ear all day long how worthless I was? I couldn't do anything right. Just total doubt and misery. Was I listening to him all day, or was I listening to this little shoulder angel that was full of light and hope and love? Well, guess who I was listening to most of the time? So I decided to flick him off my shoulder, and he would just climb right back up there all the time. And I just had to keep practicing to flick that shoulder devil off my shoulder all the time and choose to listen to the quiet voice of love and hope. That took a lot of practice. It's a lot of work. And it's so worth it to choose to listen to that voice instead. I don't know if you've ever seen the scientific study on frozen water done by Dr. Emoto. I don't know the whole scientific thing about it. I saw it years ago, and it just sticks in my mind, and I just remembered it. All I remember for sure is that they put positive and negative words next to this water as it freezes. So it's a beautiful illustration to show you the power of positivity or negativity in your life. The positive words create this beautiful pattern and make these really delicate creations. But the negative words, it's really interesting. It forms these dark, like brown color, misshapen blobs. So you will never speak to anyone more than you speak to yourself in your head. Be kind to yourself. It's very powerful. So along with stopping the negative thoughts about myself, I felt like I needed to forgive others. I started having all these lumps growing in my body. So here I'm sitting in this chair in total pain all the time, and then these lumps started growing, like in my neck, in my armpit, in my breasts, in my back, in my abdomen, in my side. It was terrifying. And I think it was just all the negativity growing in me. I read Chris beat cancer, and because I didn't know if that's what it was or not. And he said one of his first steps to healing himself was to forgive. He said to write down all the offenses that you can remember in your life and work through them and pray for help to just work through one by one to forgive them. I'm like, okay, I'll give it a try. So I sat down and I just wrote them all down. I prayed for help. I worked through them. And little by little, I was able to just start to forgive. And as I was healing myself that way, the lumps started to disappear. Within a few months, they were all gone. The difference forgiveness made in my life was a feeling of becoming free from those burdens that I'd carried on my shoulders for a really long time. But in this process, I found the person I had to forgive the most was myself. What a surprise. I had to forgive myself for the years of being so critical and saying so many mean things to myself all day long. It was beautiful for me to start building a relationship of trust with myself. I stopped berating myself for every little thing I did wrong constantly. And I started to have more forgiveness, patience, and compassion for myself and for my flaws and for the people around me too. Because none of us are perfect. You know, none of us are going to leave this life perfect. We all have things that we need to work on, but we all just want to be loved and needed and happy. The next thing I added was meditation. I love what Susan Pierce Thompson says in her book. Meditation is incredibly valuable. Research shows that it keeps the brain young by slowing the atrophy of gray matter. It decreases activity in the default mode network of the brain, resulting in increased happiness and in decreased mind wandering. It reduces depression, anxiety, and pain, and it improves concentration and attention and can help alleviate addiction. Meditation has done wonders for me. It's helped me be more calm. It's helped me be more accepting of myself. A lot of my meditation, sometimes I just do my own in my mind, and I use like positive affirmations to myself. And adding that to those other habit stacks that I was already doing made all the difference. It's changed me and in so much better way. So grateful. So when you start to love yourself for the first time, when you start to truly embrace who you are, flaws and all, your scars start to look a lot more like beauty marks. So there's a lot of different meditation apps out there. You know, there's the one in the hub. Actually, there's two in the hub that I found, and I use them all the time. There's also Refill My Soul is a free one you can find, and Insight Timer is also free ones, or you can add on and buy more. They're both really good. In fact, I did one just before I presented. Refill my soul. This quote really resonates with me. I can think of the countless times I tried to use shame to change me for the better. It never worked. Shame doesn't work. But once I started to heal my relationship with God and with myself, it's made a profoundly different process of change for me. There's been a lot of growth, and oftentimes growth is accompanied by pain. So this process for me has been really painful, but the growth has far outweighed the distress of the pain. It's just nice to know that God's with us and He always helps us through our challenges. When I heard about Bright Line Eating, it took me like 6 months before I was ready to join in. It just was overwhelming. Chapter 10, which is what I'm talking about today, that's what made it so I couldn't start. It was too overwhelming. Look at that list of all those things to do. But I knew that those tools were going to be different than the other things I tried. I knew that those were the things that were going to make this program work for me. And so I got everything ready, got my brain wrapped around giving up flour and sugar, bought my food scale, bought my books and journals, and I just got ready. And it took me 6 months, but then when I was ready to come all in, I was ready to come all in. So a few days before my 49th birthday, as a gift to my deceased sister who died at 49, and as a gift to myself, I started my journey. I took responsibility to take care of my health. I took responsibility to be a mom that would be there to raise my son, who is now 7. And I chose to be here to welcome the new grandbabies that were coming. I had no idea, however, that by choosing to follow Bright Line Eating, how truly powerful it was going to be in changing my life. Words can't express the spiritual, mental, emotional journey these past few years have been, and I'm just so grateful for this growing process. I feel like I'm becoming more of the person that I meant to be. Connection, that's my other favorite thing. I was going to talk more about connection, but we're running shorter on time, and I know other people have presented on connection today. It's important. That's why everyone's talking about it. It's important. Here's a couple of connection quotes for you. It's why we're here. It's what gives purpose and meaning to our lives. Connection is the energy that exists between people when they feel seen, heard, and valued, when they can give and receive without judgment, and when they derive sustenance and strength from the relationship. And then there's this quote on shame. You know, when we hide our shame in secrecy, that's where it grows. But when we douse that shame with empathy, it can't survive. Or when you shine a light on it, it makes it go away. So all those times that I was wishing for a magic wand in my life, I realize now that I was better off without one. Effort is what helps us appreciate our journey. I realize now that that deep, dark pit I was in, it wasn't an accident. I was supposed to experience that in my journey. It wasn't a deep, dark pit. It was actually a classroom. It's a classroom where I learned lessons that I couldn't have learned any other way. I'm really grateful for all of the experiences I've had in my life. That's where we learn and we grow. It's from those deep, dark moments. That's where we can come out shining. And I'm so grateful to have been led to find tools that have helped guide me to a brighter path. You know that all of us have things that we struggle with and things that we work along. But as we meet up with each other on our paths, let's help each other along the way. I love this last quote. This came out of this reader that I love. Each experience we have plays its part in the total picture of our lives. The steps we have taken, the path we travel today, and our direction tomorrow are not by chance. There's a pattern. We each have a destiny. We may have veered off the path in the past, and we may veer off it again, but we'll be guided back, and our paths intersect. None of us is traveling alone. We have each other and the creative force that is at the helm. This is what my habit stacks look like now. I just keep adding on. It's kind of fun to add more and more things. But you can't just do it all at once. Remember how I was overwhelmed, when I started? I was talking to Kelly, and she has a fabulous way that she guides people. Don't have time to have you come up, but I was going to. What she does is she has people choose 5 habit stacks that they want to do. Is it 2 of them? 2 of them have to be ones that they are already doing before they add in any more. And just make them easy. Make it something that you can do, because then you feel successful if you're already doing it and you can add to that. Don't overwhelm yourself. You don't get anywhere when you get overwhelmed. Just start simple. If you just need to start with one, start with one. And this is the list of what the habit stacks are in the book. And I just have a couple minutes. So I'm going to read some of the responses I got when I asked people what their favorite habit stacks were. I don't know if I'll have time to read through all of them, but there's some pretty fun ones. You can find ones that aren't in the book that are really helpful. Susanna, is it okay if I tell your name? So she says in the morning she turns off her alarm and she just turns on her meditation while she's in bed, and she listens to her meditation. And then after the meditation, she rolls out of bed and rolls into kneeling position and says her prayers. And then she continues on from there. And I just thought, that's pretty genius, right? This is Stacy. Is she in here? Stacy Fiala. What she does, and I loved this one too, at night, she writes down her intentions for the next day. She writes between 1 or 3 things that are important to her. And she says it's like writing her food down the night before. So the next day they're already written down. She doesn't have to decide what she's going to do. They're already written down, and it just makes it easy for her to keep going. Another one, Sherilyn Arnold said she says her morning prayers while she's in the shower because no one bothers her, and she can take as long as she wants. A lot of people said meditation is something that they do. I noticed last night, oh my goodness, how embarrassing that I forget our keynote. Joanne, thank you. She mentions morning pages. I haven't done those yet, so that might be something I might want to add to mine one day. Somebody else said They eat, while they're eating the breakfast in the morning, they also listen to something off of the BLE hub. Nikki Shores says her favorite is making her bed. Something as simple as that. She says she still struggles doing it, but she feels great results just from having that simple step. A lot of people liked this one. This woman, Tina, said that as soon as she's done eating her dinner, she runs in the bathroom and she brushes and flosses her teeth, and that represents that she's done eating for the day. So, pretty great. Annie, this one's yours. She does a bullet journal every night and does her creativity, and it adds to what her habit stacks are going to be for the next day in there, her food planning and everything. Writing in your food journal, I mean, that's probably the number one. Okay, so those are some great things. I think we are up on time. Thank you for letting you share my journey with me. I'm sorry it's a little bit sad, but but we all go through it. And that's what I wanted to show you, that there's hope when we're having a hard time. We're learning something from it. We become better from it. And when we look back after we've gone through it, we can see how much we've grown and changed.